Tied up and injured, a millionaire struggles to survive in the backlands, not knowing how he got there. An 11-year-old girl, the cleaner's daughter, decides to follow the kidnappers and change his fate. Without hesitation, she saves him, using her courage and determination to guide him to an improvised shelter. If this beautiful story of resilience and love interests you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tell us which city you're watching from. Moving on. The sun beat down mercilessly on the dusty road, cutting through the desert outside Tucson, Arizona. It was one of those August afternoons when the heat seemed to suck the very last drop of energy from every living thing. The arid landscape stretched for miles, with only a few twisted mesquite trees and cracked earth witnessing nature's relentless force. In that desolate setting, a luxury European car sped along the back road, kicking up a cloud of red dust. Inside the vehicle, Marcus Taylor blasted the air conditioning, trying in vain to alleviate his discomfort. The grey at his temples and the Swiss watch on his wrist betrayed his 52 years of a successful life. A real estate mogul, Marcus had built an empire from nothing, or at least that's what he liked to believe. He had luxury condos scattered across 3 major cities, a mansion on the outskirts of Tucson, and a bank account that allowed for any whim. But that afternoon he was alone, driving down a road he rarely took, running away from commitments and responsibilities that were piling up like bricks on his shoulders. He had left the city without telling anyone, not the efficient secretary who organized every minute of his schedule, not the distant wife who barely recognized him when they passed in the hallways of their mansion, nor his adult children who only called when they needed money. Marcus simply grabbed his car keys and left, seeking a relief he couldn't name. Maybe it was the pressure of business, maybe the emptiness he felt even while surrounded by luxury, or maybe the growing sensation that his life had become a succession of numbers on spreadsheets and unimportant faces in endless meetings. The road stretched out ahead, mesmerizing in its monotony. Marcus increased his speed even more, as if he could leave that feeling of suffocation behind. The speedometer read 90 miles per hour when he saw the sharp curve. Too late. He slammed on the brakes, but the crumbling asphalt and accumulated dust turned the maneuver into a nightmare. The car skidded, spun around, and flew off the road. The world turned into a kaleidoscope of blue sky, red earth, and twisted metal. The impact against the rocks on the side of the road was brutal. When silence returned, broken only by the hissing of the damaged engine, Marcus was unconscious in the driver's seat, his face marked by a cut on his forehead, his right shoulder screaming in pain. The car had rolled over and landed on its side in a ditch partially hidden from the road by dry bushes. There, in that place forgotten by God and men, the man who always had everything found himself with absolutely nothing. Meanwhile, a few miles away, in an area even further from the main highway, an 11-year-old girl was walking under the same merciless sun. Her name was Isabella, but everyone who knew her just called her Bella. Her bare feet were used to the hot ground, her tanned skin no longer felt the sunburns like before, and her brown eyes had that peculiar shine of someone who learned to survive too early. Bella carried a canvas sack on her back, where she kept cans, plastic bottles, and anything she could sell or trade for food. Bella's mother, Ms. Nancy, had worked as a housekeeper at the Taylor mansion for almost 3 years. It was a dignified job that paid the bills and allowed the two of them to live in a simple trailer on the outskirts of town. Bella remembered the mornings she accompanied her mother to the gate of the big house, waiting outside while Miss Nancy cleaned the immense rooms, washed expensive clothes, and prepared meals they would never taste. The girl would stay there, sitting in the shade of a tree, watching the movement of the rich people coming and going, trying to understand why the world was so different for everyone. But everything changed 6 months ago. Miss Nancy got sick. It was sudden, a fever that wouldn't break, pains that wouldn't go away. Bella had begged her to seek help, but the free clinic was always crowded, the lines were endless, and her mother was afraid of losing her job if she missed too much work. When they finally got care, it was too late. Miss Nancy had to be rushed to a hospital in Phoenix, 2 hours away. A distant aunt came to pick her up, promising to take care of everything, and Bella stayed behind. She stayed alone in the trailer with only a few dollars and the promise that her mother would return soon. But days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and the news was always vague, always postponing the return. The girl learned to get by. She collected recyclables, did odd jobs for neighbors, and guarded every penny as if it were gold. No one needed to know she was alone. No one needed to worry. Bella had developed an invisible armor of independence and courage that would impress any adult if anyone stopped to actually see her. That afternoon, Bella was following her usual routine. She had scoured the outskirts of town, found some bottles and cans, and was now heading home via the long way, the one that passed near the road. She liked watching the cars pass, imagining where they were going, what stories they carried. It was a game she invented to make the walks less lonely. But that afternoon, something caught her attention. It was a strange mark on the ground, as if something heavy had gone off the road. Bella approached with curiosity, following the tracks. Her instincts, sharpened by survival, made her walk carefully, observing every detail. That was when she saw the overturned car, partially hidden by the bushes. The girl's heart raced. She looked around, making sure she was alone, and then approached slowly. The vehicle was destroyed, the side crushed, and the windows shattered. Through the broken window, Bella could see a man unconscious in the front seat. His face was stained with blood, his body in a strange position. For a moment, the girl considered leaving, pretending she hadn't seen anything. After all, what could she, a child, do? But something inside her, something Ms. Nancy had planted with her teachings about helping others, made her stay. Bella got closer, using a branch to carefully break the rest of the window glass. The noise made the man groan, a sign he was alive. She reached in with her small hand and managed to unlock the dented door, pulling with all the strength she had. The door gave way with a metallic creak. The man opened his eyes slowly, disoriented. His vision was blurry, his head throbbed, and it took a few seconds to focus on the face of the girl watching him with a mixture of concern and determination. Marcus tried to speak, but his voice came out weak, barely audible. "You're hurt, mister. You need to get out of there," Bella said, her voice firm despite her young age. Marcus blinked, trying to process what was happening. Who was this child? Where had she come from? He tried to move, but a sharp pain in his shoulder made him groan loudly. "Careful. Don't force it. I'll help you," the girl said, assessing the situation with surprising maturity. She knew she needed to get him out of there before the sun went down and the desert chill set in. She also knew no one would pass by that road until the next day. "Who are you?" Marcus managed to ask, his consciousness slowly returning. "That doesn't matter right now. You're alone here, and this car could catch fire. You need to trust me." There was something in that child's voice that made Marcus obey without question. Maybe it was the desperation of the situation, maybe the survival instinct, or maybe the clarity in her eyes which conveyed unshakable confidence. Bella helped the man unbuckle his seatbelt, supporting his weight as he climbed out of the car with difficulty. Every movement was agony for Marcus, but the girl was patient, guiding him step by step. When they were finally at a safe distance from the vehicle, Marcus collapsed on the ground, exhausted and dizzy. Bella wet a piece of cloth with water from her old bottle and cleaned the cut on his forehead carefully. The businessman watched that surreal scene, unable to fully process what was happening. A child clearly poor and alone was taking care of him as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "You need to rest. We can't stay here until nightfall. I'm going to take you somewhere," Bella said, putting the cloth back. "What place? Where?" Marcus asked, trying to focus through the pain and confusion. "My house. It's not far from here." Marcus looked around, seeing only dry earth and bushes. He tried to protest, to say he needed a hospital, that he had to call someone, but when he reached for his cell phone, he realized the device had been lost in the crash. The man who always had control over everything now didn't even have a phone. "Let's go. We can still make it before dark," Bella insisted, extending her small hand to help him up. With effort, Marcus leaned on the girl and began to walk. Every step was a challenge, his body protested, but he had no choice. Bella forged ahead with determination, adjusting her pace to his, holding him steady whenever he stumbled. The sun began to dip below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, and the arid landscape took on a melancholic beauty. During the walk, Marcus tried to talk, ask questions, understand who this extraordinary girl was. But Bella answered in monosyllables, concentrated on guiding him through the uneven terrain. They followed a trail only she knew, dodging rocks and holes, crossing patches where low vegetation scratched their legs. After what seemed like an eternity, but was actually about 40 minutes, Bella stopped. "We're here," she announced. Marcus looked up and saw something he would never imagine calling a home. It was an old school bus, completely abandoned, with peeling yellow paint and glassless windows. The vehicle was parked in a vacant lot, surrounded by debris and tall weeds. But for Bella, that was her refuge, her home. "Here?" Marcus asked, unable to hide the surprise and a touch of horror in his voice. "Here," the girl confirmed, showing no shame or embarrassment. "It's safe. No one comes here." She helped Marcus up the rusted steps of the bus. The interior was surprisingly organized for such a precarious place. Bella had improvised a kind of bed, with cardboard and some old blankets on one of the rows of seats. There were crates serving as shelves where she kept her few possessions, some folded clothes, an aluminum mug, candles, matches, and cans of food. It was the dwelling of someone who had learned to live with the bare minimum. Marcus let himself fall onto the makeshift mattress, his body finally giving in to exhaustion and pain. Bella took a bowl with water and went back to cleaning his wounds carefully. The cut on his forehead had stopped bleeding but was swollen. His shoulder looked dislocated, but she didn't have the knowledge to know for sure. She did what she could, improvising a sling with a piece of cloth. While she took care of him, Marcus observed that childish face marked by a seriousness that shouldn't exist in a child. Her hands were small but firm, her movements precise and confident. It was as if she had done this 1,000 times before. "What is your name?" he asked, his voice steadier now. "Bella," she replied without stopping what she was doing. "Bella, that's a beautiful name." The girl didn't answer, just continued her work. When she finished, she stepped away and went to her crates, returning with a can of sardines and some saltine crackers. She offered them to him. "It's not much, but it's what I have." Marcus looked at the simple food, thinking of all the expensive and elaborate meals he ate without thinking, without truly savoring. In that moment, those sardines and crackers seemed like a banquet. He ate slowly, every bite hurting, because of his shoulder, but grateful to be alive and to have found help in the most unlikely place. After they ate, silence took over the bus. Night had fallen completely, and Bella lit a candle, the weak light dancing on the rusted walls. She sat on a nearby seat, hugging her knees, watching the man she had rescued. "Why are you alone here?" Marcus asked, breaking the silence. Bella hesitated before answering. "My mom is sick. She had to go to Phoenix. I stayed waiting for her to come back. And there's no one else, no relatives, friends. I have an aunt, but she lives far away, and I know how to take care of myself." Marcus felt a tightness in his chest. "How old are you?" 11, but I'll be 12 soon." 11 years old, the same age as his granddaughter, whom he saw maybe twice a year, and whose name he sometimes forgot. A wave of shame washed over him. While he accumulated properties and money, children like Bella fought to survive alone, invisible to the world. "Do you know me?" he asked suddenly, a suspicion arising in his mind. Bella looked away. "My mom worked at your house, Miss Nancy. She was a housekeeper there." Marcus tried to remember. There were so many employees, so many faces he barely noticed. Nancy. The name sounded familiar, but he couldn't associate it with a specific face. This realization shamed him even more. "I'm sorry," he said, sincere. "I should remember." "People like us are invisible to people like you," Bella said, without rancor, just stating a fact. "My mom worked 3 years in your mansion. You never looked at her, not once." The words were simple, but they cut deep. Marcus knew it was true. He walked past the staff every day as if they were part of the furniture. He never cared to know their names, their stories, their lives beyond those walls. To him, they were just people who did the work and got paid for it, nothing more. "You're right," he admitted, his voice heavy with an emotion he hadn't felt in a long time. "I was an idiot. I'm sorry." Bella stared at him in surprise. She wasn't used to apologies, much less from rich people. She nodded slightly, accepting the words. "Rest. Tomorrow we'll see what to do," she said, lying down on another seat, wrapping herself in a thin blanket. Marcus lay there on that makeshift mattress, looking at the rusted ceiling of the bus through the dim candlelight. His entire life had been about control, power, money, and now he was completely vulnerable, depending on the kindness of a child who had nothing. The irony was devastating. Listening to Bella's quiet breathing as she fell asleep, Marcus felt tears run down his face. It wasn't just the physical pain, but something deeper. It was as if that accident had cracked not just his body, but the facade he had built over decades. There in that abandoned bus, without his money, without his power, without his connections, he was just a scared and injured man, saved by the compassion of someone he would have completely ignored in other circumstances. The candle finally went out, plunging everything into complete darkness. But for the first time in years, Marcus Taylor didn't feel afraid of the dark. He felt something different, something he couldn't name yet, but that was beginning to awaken inside him. It was as if, by losing everything, he was finally finding something that had always been missing. And all thanks to an 11-year-old girl who had every right to leave him to die on that road but chose to save him. As sleep finally overcame him, Marcus made a silent promise. If he survived this, if he managed to get out of there and return to his life, things would be different. He would be different. He had to be. Because he could no longer live ignoring the suffering around him, not after experiencing firsthand what it was like to be completely helpless. Outside, the desert slept under a starry sky, indifferent to the human dramas unfolding in its bosom. The stars shone with the same intensity over Marcus's luxurious mansion and over the abandoned bus where he now rested. And that night, for the first time, he began to understand that perhaps we were all under the same sky after all. Bella's breathing was soft and regular, the sleep of someone used to sleeping with one eye open, always alert. She had saved a man today, but for her, it was just another day in her constant struggle for survival. She didn't expect gratitude, didn't expect a reward. That was how she had learned to live, doing what needed to be done, without expecting anything in return. But what neither of them knew was that this unlikely meeting would change both their lives forever. In the coming days, secrets would be revealed, painful truths would come to light, and both would discover that sometimes the greatest transformations begin in the most unlikely places, through the people we least expect. For now, however, it was just a wounded man and a brave girl, united by a tenuous thread of circumstances, sleeping under the same precarious roof, while the world outside kept turning, oblivious to the silent miracle that had happened in that forgotten piece of the Arizona desert. Dawn arrived slowly, painting the sky in pastel shades that infiltrated through the glassless windows of the bus. Marcus woke up with his body aching, every muscle protesting against the night spent on that makeshift mattress. For a moment confused, he didn't know where he was. Then memory returned like a wave. The accident, the girl, the abandoned bus, everything real, devastatingly real. He tried to sit up, but the pain in his shoulder made him groan. Bella appeared immediately at his side as if she had been waiting for him to wake up. Her brown eyes examined him with professional concern. "You shouldn't move that shoulder much, it's swollen," she said, her voice still raspy with sleep. "I need to go to a hospital. I need to call someone," Marcus managed to say, the reality of the situation weighing on him. "I know, but right now, early in the morning, there's no one on the road yet. Later I'll go into town, find a payphone, and call someone." Who do you want me to call? Marcus thought. His wife? Caroline probably hadn't even noticed his absence. His children, Leo and Patricia, barely answered his calls. His secretary, Mrs. Amelia, was efficient, but calling her seemed to expose a vulnerability he wasn't ready to accept yet. "My secretary, Amelia Sanders. She works at the Taylor construction office in downtown Tucson. You can look up the number and say I'm fine, but I need help." Bella nodded, memorizing the information. She grabbed a water bottle and offered it to him. "Here, you need to hydrate." Marcus drank avidly, only then realizing how thirsty he was. The water was warm with a slightly metallic taste, but in that moment it seemed like the best liquid he had ever tasted. "I'm going to get more water at the pump. Stay here and don't leave. The sun is already strong," Bella explained, grabbing 2 empty bottles. "Wait," Marcus called out. "Thank you. Thank you for everything." The girl looked at him for a long moment, as if evaluating the sincerity of those words. Then she nodded briefly and left, descending the bus steps with the lightness of someone who knew every step by heart. Alone, Marcus observed the interior of that place. In the daylight he could see the details better, the rusted seats, the walls, with holes the uneven floor. But he also noticed the care with which Bella organized her things. Every object had its place. The clothes were folded inside a cracked plastic crate, the cans of food stacked by size. There were even some school books in a corner, protected by a plastic bag. It was the home of someone fighting to maintain dignity, even in absolute precariousness. He tried to stand up, leaning on the bus structure. Dizziness came immediately, but he took a deep breath and waited for it to pass. He needed to at least go to the bathroom. He climbed down with difficulty and walked around the vehicle, finding a more private spot in the bushes. When he returned, exhausted by the minimal effort, Bella was already back with the full bottles. "You shouldn't have gone out," she scolded, but there was a note of genuine concern in her voice. "I needed to," he replied simply. Bella prepared black coffee in an old tin can over a small improvised stove. The strong, comforting smell filled the air. She offered it to Marcus, along with some crackers. "It's not much, but it helps start the day." Marcus accepted, realizing that coffee and those crackers were probably a significant part of her provisions. He, who was used to skipping breakfast or having just a quick espresso before leaving, now savored every sip of that bitter coffee made with such care. "Do you go to school?" he asked, noticing the notebooks. Bella's face closed up a bit. "I did, when my mom was here. Now I can't anymore." "Why?" "Because I need to work, collecting recyclables, doing odd jobs. There's no time left." "But you need to study. It's important." "Eating is also important, and to eat I need to work," she replied with irrefutable and sad logic. Marcus felt the weight of those words. How many children in America were in the same situation? How many had to choose between education and survival? He always knew these realities existed, but they were always abstractions, numbers on the news, other people's problems, never something so concrete, so close. "Do you miss school?" Bella was silent for a moment, stirring the coffee. "I do. I liked English class. Mrs. Anderson said I wrote well, that I could be a writer one day. And do you want to be?" "I wanted to, but now I just want my mom back." The vulnerability in that confession touched Marcus deeply. Behind that facade of strength and independence, there was still a scared child who just wanted her mother back. "She'll come back," he said, trying to offer comfort. Bella looked at him with those eyes that were too old for her age. "You don't know that. No one knows." "You're right. I don't know. But I'm sure she's fighting to get back to you." "I hope so, because I can't stand being alone anymore." It was the first time Bella admitted her loneliness out loud, and saying it to a stranger, paradoxically, seemed easier than admitting it to herself every night. After coffee, Bella said she was going to town. Marcus wanted to go along, but she was categorical. "You can barely walk. If someone sees us together, they'll ask questions. It's better if I go alone. Call your secretary and come back. You stay here resting." Reluctantly, Marcus agreed. She was right. He could barely stand. Bella took some change kept in a small tin, tied the old shoes she reserved for going to town, and left. The hours that followed were the longest of Marcus's life. Alone in that bus, without a cell phone, without connection to the world, he found himself face to face with his own thoughts, and they weren't comfortable thoughts. He thought about Caroline, his wife of 28 years. When they had married, they were in love, or at least he believed so. She was the daughter of an influential businessman, and the marriage opened important doors for Marcus's business. Over time, as he built his empire, The relationship turned into a cold and distant coexistence. They lived in the same house but in completely different worlds. She with her high society friends, her charity dinners, her trips to spas. He with his business, his meetings, his numbers growing in bank accounts. He thought about Leo, his oldest son. With a business degree from the best private university, he now worked at the construction company, but seemed more interested in impressing women with his imported car than actually learning the business. Conversations between them were always tense, always about work, never about life. He thought about Patricia, the youngest. She had dropped out of college in her sophomore year to travel the world, spending fortunes on experiences that were supposedly meant to help her find herself. Marcus paid for everything, but they rarely spoke. She saw him as a sponsor, not a father. When did it all fall apart? When did he stop being a family man to become just a provider of resources? When did he stop hugging his children, talking to his wife about something other than bills and social commitments? When did money become more important than people? The questions tormented him, and there were no easy answers. Maybe there was never a specific moment. Maybe it was a gradual erosion, stone by stone, until nothing was left but an empty structure. And now he was there, depending on the kindness of a girl living in an abandoned bus, a girl whose parents he probably had never noticed. The irony was cruel. Bella returned in the late afternoon, sweaty and tired. "I managed to talk to your secretary. She was desperate, said she's sending someone to pick you up tomorrow morning. She asked where you were, but I didn't give details. Just said it was near the old road to Benson." "Thank you, Bella. Seriously. I don't know how to thank you." The girl shrugged. "No need to thank me. Anyone would do the same. But not everyone would, you know that." Bella didn't answer, but her eyes showed she understood. The world wasn't kind to people like her. She had learned that early. That night, after sharing a simple meal of rice and eggs that Bella prepared with the few ingredients she had, they talked. Marcus, for the first time in decades, really talked to someone. Not about business, not about profits, but about life. "What is it like living alone?" he asked. Bella thought before answering. "It's hard. Sometimes I get scared, especially at night. I hear noises and imagine things, but I learned that being afraid doesn't help. You have to be strong. An 11-year-old shouldn't have to be so strong. I know, but I had no choice. After my mom left, I realized that either I learned to get by or I wouldn't survive, so I learned." "Did you never think about asking for help, going to a shelter, talking to CPS?" "I thought about it, but I'm afraid they'll send me somewhere far away. And what if my mom comes back and I'm not here? How will she find me? I prefer to stay, even if it's hard." That child's loyalty to the mother who had left, even in the most difficult circumstances, moved Marcus. He had emotionally abandoned his family, even while living with them. Bella kept the flame of hope alive even in absolute solitude. "Tell me about your mother," he asked. Bella's eyes shone. "My mum is the hardest working person I know. She woke up at 4 in the morning to work at your house, came back at 6 in the evening, and still cooked, cleaned our house, helped me with homework. She never complained. She said everything she did was for me so I could have a better life. She must be an extraordinary woman. Yeah, she always said education was the only inheritance she could leave me. That's why she fought with me to study, not to miss school. She said I was smart, that I could be whatever I wanted." "And do you believe that?" Bella hesitated. "I believed it. Now I don't know anymore. How am I going to be anything if I can't even finish middle school?" "You will. I'm sure of it." "How can you be sure?" "Because I saw the strength." "You have." "Because I saw how you didn't give up even when everything was against you. That's worth more than any diploma." Bella fell silent, absorbing those words. No one had said anything like that to her in a long time. "And you?" she asked, turning the tables. "How is your life?" Marcus laughed humorlessly. "My life? My life is a well-constructed lie. I have a huge mansion where I barely talk to the people who live there. I have companies generating millions. But I can't say when was the last time I felt fulfilled by anything. I have everything, and I have nothing. Why don't you change?" "Because it's easier to continue as is. Change is scary. It's simpler to pretend everything is fine and move on." Sounds like you're trapped, just like me, except by your own choice. Bella's insightful observation hit him like a punch. She was absolutely right. He was trapped, but unlike her, they were chains he had forged himself. "How did you get so wise?" he asked, genuinely impressed. "I'm not wise. I just pay attention. When you don't have TV, don't have a phone, don't have anything to distract you, you learn to observe people. And you learn that sometimes we complicate things that could be simple." They talked until late, until the candle was almost completely consumed. Marcus told her about his humble childhood, about how he had built everything from scratch, about how somewhere along the way he had lost his purpose. Bella listened attentively, asking questions that made him think, that made him question things he had taken for granted a long time ago. When sleep finally came, Marcus found himself thinking that he had talked more in those few hours with an 11-year-old girl than he had talked to his own family in the last few years, and that said a lot about the choices he had made. The next day, Bella woke up early as always. She made coffee, offered the last crackers to Marcus, and said she was going to collect materials while they waited for his secretary to arrive. Marcus insisted she stay, but Bella was firm. "I need to work. I can't lose the day." Before leaving, she stopped at the bus door. "When your secretary arrives and you leave, you're going to forget about me. You're going to forget this place, and that's okay. I understand. Rich people always forget poor people." "I won't forget, Bella, I promise I won't." She gave a sad smile. "Everyone promises, but life goes on, and promises get left behind." And with those words she left, leaving Marcus alone with his thoughts and a growing determination to prove her wrong. Amelia arrived around 10 in the morning, in a car with a driver, accompanied by a team of paramedics. The 50-something woman, always impeccable and efficient, almost had a heart attack when she saw Marcus's state. "Mr. Taylor, my God, what happened? We've been looking for you for 2 days. Your wife is desperate. Your children called 1,000 times. 2 days. Marcus had lost track of time. To him it felt like just a few hours. "I had an accident on the road. The car rolled over. A girl found me and helped me." Amelia looked around, seeing the abandoned bus, the vacant lot, the precariousness of it all. "What girl?" "She lives here. She went to get recyclables. Amelia, I need you to take care of her. I need to help her." The secretary, used to not questioning her boss's orders, nodded. "Of course, Mr. Taylor. But first let's get you to the hospital. You're injured." The paramedics examined him quickly, confirming his shoulder was dislocated and there were signs of dehydration. They needed to take him immediately for proper treatment. As they prepared him for transport, Marcus looked at the bus one last time. "I don't want to leave without saying goodbye to her." "Sir, she might take a while to come back. You need urgent medical care," Amelia argued. Reluctantly, Marcus agreed, but made the secretary promise she would come back to find Bella and offer help. Amelia, with her characteristic efficiency, wrote everything down and guaranteed she would handle the matter. In the makeshift ambulance on the way to the hospital, Marcus looked out the window, watching the arid landscape pass by. He thought of Bella, returning to the empty bus, discovering he had left. He thought of the disappointment she would feel, the confirmation of her worst fears that people like him always abandoned people like her. He needed to prove she was wrong. He needed to show that some promises are worth keeping. And for the first time in a long time, Marcus Taylor had a purpose that went beyond profits and properties. He had a debt to pay, not of money, but of dignity and gratitude. St. Rose Medical Center was a temple of luxury and efficiency, immaculate white walls, state-of-the-art equipment, attentive nurses bowing to patients with good insurance plans. Marcus was installed in a private suite on the top floor, with a view of the city and all the comforts money could buy. Doctors took turns examining him, orthopedists discussed the best treatment for his dislocated shoulder, and a private nurse was assigned exclusively to his care. But even surrounded by all that luxury, Marcus couldn't stop thinking about the abandoned bus, the cardboard mattress, the bitter coffee made in an old tin can. The difference between the two worlds was so brutal it seemed obscene. Caroline arrived a few hours later, entering the room with her usual elegance. She wore a designer dress, imported shoes, and her perfectly manicured nails tapped nervously on her leather purse. Her face showed more irritation than concern. Marcus, for the love of God. You disappear for 2 days. No one knows where you are, the company almost collapses, and you show up saying you had an accident. What is this story? Hey, it's not a story, Caroline. I really had an accident. The car rolled over. And where was this car? Why did no one find it? Because I went off the main road. I was in a deserted area. And what were you doing there, Marcus? Running away from what? The question caught him off guard. Running away from what? From everything. From you, from the kids, from the company, from a life that no longer made sense. But he didn't say that. Instead, he mumbled something about needing to think, to clear his head. Caroline sighed, exasperated. You're 52 years old. You're not a teenager to be doing these things. You have responsibilities, Marcus. People depend on you. I know. Do you? Because it doesn't seem like it. Leo is taking meetings that were yours. Investors are nervous. The press is starting to speculate. You need to give an explanation. The explanation is simple. I had an accident, I'm recovering, and I'll be back soon. Caroline studied him for a long moment. There was something different about him, something she couldn't identify. Are you okay? I mean, besides the physical injuries? I am, Marcus lied. Or maybe it wasn't. A lie. For the first time in years, he felt like maybe he was on the path to being okay. His wife didn't seem convinced, but didn't insist. She left some documents that needed signing, said she would return the next day, and left, her heels clicking on the impeccable hospital floor. There was no hug, no touch, just a courtesy visit, like someone fulfilling a social obligation. Leo and Patricia came together in the late afternoon. The eldest son entered with an air of importance, already assuming the role of someone in charge in his father's absence. Patricia, tanned from her last trip, seemed more interested in her phone than her hospitalized father. Dad, we need to talk about the expansion of the Phoenix project. The partners want an answer, Leo began, without even asking how he was. Leo, I just survived a car accident. Can it wait a few days? Business doesn't wait, Dad. You taught me that yourself. The irony of those words didn't go unnoticed. Marcus really had taught his son that. He had taught that business came before everything, that feelings were luxuries businessmen couldn't afford. And now he was reaping the fruits of that teaching. Patricia finally looked up from her phone. Dad, when you get out of here, can we talk about that trip to Milan? There's a photography course I wanted to take. Patricia, your father is hospitalized. Leo scolded impatiently. So what? He's going to be fine. The doctors said it's not serious. Marcus observed his children, these two people he had helped raise, and saw nothing of himself in them. Or maybe he saw exactly what he had put into them, a worldview where everything boiled down to money, comfort, and personal satisfaction. He had failed as a father, and now the evidence was there in front of him, asking for signatures on contracts and funding for trips. You can go. I'll sign whatever is necessary tomorrow. Right now, I need to rest. The two left without insisting, relieved not to have to stay longer. They had barely entered and were already leaving, and Marcus realized he felt absolutely nothing. Not anger, not sadness, not disappointment, just a deep void where familial love should be. Amelia returned the next morning, bringing clean clothes and a folder with urgent documents. But Marcus didn't want to know about documents. He wanted to know about Bella. Did you manage to find her? The secretary assumed a strange expression. Mr. Taylor, about that. I went back to the location as you asked. I found the bus, but the girl wasn't there. I talked to some residents in the area, and I discovered some things. What did you discover? Her mother, Nancy, really worked at your house, but she passed away 3 months ago, sir. Complications from severe pneumonia. The family didn't have the resources for good treatment. Marcus felt the floor drop out from under him. Passed away, but Bella said she was in Phoenix, that she was coming back. Amelia sighed. From what I understood, the girl doesn't know, or doesn't want to accept it. The aunt who took the mother to the hospital tried to tell her, but the girl didn't want to believe it. She ran away. Since then, she's been living alone in that bus, waiting for her mother to return. My God, Marcus murmured, his heart tightening. An 11-year-old child, alone, living in denial for 3 months. How did no one do anything? I did more research, sir. It seems CPS tried to locate her a few times, but she always hides when she sees any authority figure. She's afraid of being sent to a shelter. And honestly, with the system overloaded as it is, she ended up getting kind of forgotten. Forgotten. Bella had become invisible even to the system that was supposed to protect her, just as her mother had been invisible to Marcus during 3 years working in his house. I need to help her, Amelia. I need to do something. Do you want me to call social services? No, I mean, yes, but not yet. First, I need to talk to her. I need her to trust me. If we simply send authorities, she'll run away again. Amelia seemed hesitant. Mr. Taylor, you are in a delicate moment. You just had an accident. You have a company to run, a family that needs attention. Are you sure you want to get involved in this? Marcus looked her in the eyes, his voice firm. She saved my life, Amelia. When I was vulnerable and alone, an 11-year-old child helped me without expecting anything in return. She used her own food to feed me, her own water to give me a drink. How can I simply turn my back now? The secretary nodded, her eyes tearing up. I always knew you had a good heart, sir, even when you pretended not to. Marcus spent 3 more days in the hospital. The doctors put his shoulder back in place, treated the minor injuries, and prescribed physical therapy. During that time, he thought a lot about what to do regarding Bella. He couldn't just show up and say he knew about her mother. That would be devastating. He needed a plan, a careful approach. When he was finally discharged, instead of going straight home, he asked the driver to take him to the bus. It was a Saturday afternoon, the sun still high in the sky. The abandoned vehicle was there, exactly as he remembered, a monument to resilience amidst abandonment. Marcus got out of the car and walked to the bus. He climbed the steps carefully, his shoulder still sore despite the medication. Bella was there, sitting on one of the seats, reading an old book. She looked up when he entered, and for a moment showed no emotion at all. Then she spoke, her voice carefully neutral. I knew you would forget. I knew people like you always forget. I didn't forget, Bella, and I came to prove it. Came to feel better about your guilty conscience. Do charity for the poor girl. The words hurt, but Marcus understood where they came from. I came because you saved my life, and because I need your help now. This caught her attention. My help with what? I need to learn to be a better person, and I think you're the best teacher I can have. Bella let out something between a laugh and a snort. You're joking, right? I don't know anything. I'm just a poor girl who barely finished 5th grade. Marcus sat on the seat across from her, ignoring the pain in his shoulder. You know the most important things. You know about compassion, about helping someone even when you have almost nothing. You know about waiting, about having hope even when everything seems lost. These are things I forgot if I ever knew them. Bella studied him with those eyes that were too old. You're going to leave again. As soon as you get tired of playing nice, you'll go back to your mansion and forget I exist. What if I promise I won't? What if I promise I'll be here every week without fail? Promises mean nothing. Then let me prove it with actions. Marcus took an envelope from his pocket. Here is enough money for you to buy real food for a month. It's not charity. It's payment for the days you took care of me. Bella took the envelope hesitantly, looking at the money inside. She had never seen so much money at once. It was surreal. And there's more. I want you to go back to school. I'll pay for everything, uniforms, supplies, tuition if needed. You said you liked studying, that you dreamed of being a writer. You can't give up on that dream. And the materials I collect, I need to work. On weekends. During the week, you study. I'll give you a monthly allowance to make up for what you stop earning collecting materials. Why are you doing this? Bella asked, her voice finally cracking, showing the hidden vulnerability. Because when I was in that car, injured and alone, I thought I was going to die. And do you know what my biggest fear was? It wasn't dying. It was realizing that if I died in that moment, no one would really miss me. My wife would go on with her social life. My children would argue over the inheritance. My company would keep running. I would just be a name on a tombstone. And I made you change your mind? You showed me there is still goodness in the world. That there are still people who do the right thing simply because it's the right thing to do. You gave me hope, Bella. Now I want to give back. Tears began to run down the girl's face. She had been strong for so long, maintaining that facade of independence, that when someone finally offered genuine help, her defenses crumbled. And my mum, when she comes back, will she understand that I accepted help from strangers? Marcus felt a tightness in his chest. It was the moment of truth, but he didn't have the courage. Not yet. Your mom will understand, I'm sure. She just wants you to be okay. Bella wiped her tears with the back of her hand. Okay, I'll accept, but only until my mom comes back. When she returns, we'll manage on our own again. Agreed. And you promise you won't leave? That you won't abandon me like everyone else? I promise, I'll be here every week, you have my word. A rich man's word isn't worth much. Then I'll prove mine is. In the following days, Marcus worked to make it happen. He used his connections to enroll Bella in a good private school, where she would have all the necessary support. He bought uniforms, supplies, a new backpack. He hired a psychologist to start working with the girl, gently preparing her for the truth she would have to face about her mother. But while he did all this, he faced resistance at home. Caroline didn't understand when he mentioned he was helping a girl. Marcus, there are institutions for this. Why are you getting personally involved? Because she saved me. I have a debt to her. You already paid that debt. You gave money, enrolled her in school. Now let the professionals handle it. She doesn't need distant professionals. She needs someone who cares. And you think you have time for that? With everything you have to do? I'll make time. Leo was even more direct. Dad, are you having some kind of midlife crisis? First you disappear for days, now you're adopting street kids. I'm not adopting anyone, I'm helping. This could create legal problems, it could affect the company's image. Damn the company's image, Marcus exploded, surprising himself and his son. I'm tired of everything revolving around money and image. There is a child who needs help and I'm going to help her. End of discussion. Leo left the office, slamming the door. Patricia, when she found out, simply rolled her eyes and went back to her phone. None of them understood, and Marcus realized they might never understand. The following Saturday, as promised, Marcus returned to the bus. Bella was there, but something was different. She was wearing the new school uniform, her hair was tied in a ponytail, and there was a glimmer of hope in her eyes. Did you start studying? I did. It's weird being in a classroom again. The other kids look at me like I'm from another planet. They'll get used to it, and so will you. The English teacher liked my essay, said I have talent. Marcus smiled. I knew it. They talked for hours. Bella told him about the difficulties of adapting, about how hard it was to make friends when you came from such a different world. Marcus spoke about his own challenges, about how he was trying to rebuild relationships he had neglected for years. And is it working? She asked. Not yet, but I won't give up. Just like me with school. Just like you with school. When Marcus left that day, he felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Purpose. It wasn't about profits or business expansion. It was about making a difference in a person's life. It was about honoring a debt that couldn't be paid with money. But he knew the road would be hard. He knew eventually he would have to tell Bella about her mother. He knew this could destroy the trust they were building, but he also knew he couldn't let her live a lie forever. For now, however, he would do what he could. He would be present. He would be reliable. He would prove that not all promises were empty, and maybe in the process, he would become the man he always should have been. Months passed, and an unexpected routine was established. Every Saturday, without fail, Marcus went to the bus to visit Bella. Sometimes he brought books he thought she would like. Other times they just talked about the week that had passed. The girl began to talk more, to trust more, and gradually that child who had learned to survive alone began to be just a child again. School was being transformative. Bella had found a literature teacher, Mrs. Anderson, who recognized her talent for writing and encouraged her to participate in a literary contest for students. The girl wrote a short story about a bird that lost its nest but found hope in an unexpected place. It was clearly autobiographical but had a poetic beauty. That impressed the judges. She won third place. When Marcus found out, He felt a pride he had never felt even for his own children. He went to the school on the day of the award ceremony, sitting discreetly in the back of the auditorium. He saw Bella go up on stage, shy but determined, receive the certificate and the prize book. He saw her eyes searching for him in the audience, and when their gazes met, she smiled. A genuine, free smile of a child who finally had someone rooting for her. But not everything was rosy. At home, the abyss between Marcus and his family only grew. Caroline had stopped asking where he went on Saturdays. She simply accepted it as another eccentricity of a husband she barely knew anymore. Leo had assumed practically all operations of the company, making decisions without consulting his father, creating a parallel empire of power. Patricia continued traveling, spending fortunes, looking for meaning in increasingly distant places. It was on a Tuesday that everything began to crumble. Marcus was in his home office when Caroline entered without knocking, something unusual for her who always respected the spaces demarcated between them. "I need to talk to you, it's serious." The tone was different. It wasn't the usual irritation, but something heavier. Concern, perhaps, or fear. "Go ahead." Caroline sat down, her perfect hands clasped in her lap. "I got a call today. From Helen. Do you remember her? From the club?" "Vaguely. She said she saw you on Saturday, in a strange place with a girl. People are talking, Marcus." "Let them talk. I'm not doing anything wrong." "But it looks wrong. A man of your age, rich, influential, visiting a child alone in an abandoned place. Don't you see how this can be misinterpreted?" Marcus felt anger rise. "Misinterpreted? I'm helping a child who saved my life, that's all." "I know. Or at least I want to believe that's all. But you need to understand how things look from the outside. You need to be more careful." "Being more careful means what? Stop helping her? Abandon her like everyone else abandoned her?" "It means bringing in professionals to handle the situation. Social workers, psychologists, lawyers, people who know what they're doing. I have psychologists working with her. I've ensured she's okay. What more do they want from me?" Caroline sighed. "They want you to stop getting personally involved, to keep your distance for your own protection, Marcus. And do you know me at all? When did I ever care what others think? You should start caring. This could affect the business, our social standing, our children. Our children barely know I exist. And our social standing? It's based on lies and appearances. I'm tired of it all, Caroline. Tired of pretending my life has meaning when it doesn't." "So what do you want? Throw it all away because of a girl you barely know? I know her more than I know my own children. She listens to me when I speak. She cares about what I think. She makes me want to be a better person." Caroline was silent for a long moment. "So you're saying she fills the void your family doesn't fill?" "I'm saying she showed me there is life beyond money and status, and that maybe, just maybe, I wasted 52 years chasing the wrong things." His wife stood up, her eyes tearing up. "I don't know who you are anymore, Marcus. The man I married would never say these things. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe the man you married was a fraud. And maybe I'm finally becoming who I was meant to be." Caroline left without saying another word, and Marcus was left alone in the office, feeling the weight of his words. His marriage, which was already fragile, was shattering for good. But strangely, he didn't feel the despair he should feel. He felt almost a relief. That Saturday, when he arrived at the bus, Bella noticed something different about him. "Did something happen?" "Why do you ask?" "Because you have that look, like someone carrying the world on their shoulders." Marcus smiled despite everything. "You know me too well. So tell me, what was it?" He hesitated, but then decided to be honest. Bella deserved honesty. "My wife thinks I'm wrong to help you. She thinks people will think badly of me." "And do you care what people think?" "No, but I care about what it can cause. People can be cruel, Bella. They can invent stories, create problems." The girl was silent, processing. "Do you want to stop coming?" "Never. I promised I wouldn't abandon you, and I won't." "But it's going to cost you dearly, isn't it? Your family, your reputation, maybe even your business." Some things are worth the price. Bella looked at him with those eyes that saw far beyond the surface. I don't want to be the reason your family falls apart. My family fell apart a long time ago, Bella. I was just denying it. You aren't the cause of anything. You're just the catalyst that made me see the truth. Catalyst. That's a beautiful word. What does it mean? It means something that speeds up a reaction that was already happening. You made me see faster what was already there. Bella nodded slowly. I learned that from Mrs. Anderson. She always says words have power. They really do. There was a pause, and then Bella said something that surprised Marcus. You know, sometimes I think my mum isn't coming back. Marcus's heart raced. Why do you say that? Because it's been a long time. Almost 7 months, and her aunt stopped calling. In the beginning, she called every week, gave updates. Now nothing. Marcus knew this was the moment he had been postponing for months. But looking at that girl who was finally blossoming, who was studying, making friends, having hope, he couldn't do it. He couldn't be the one to destroy everything. Maybe she's very busy taking care of your mom. The treatment must be difficult. Maybe. Or maybe she died and no one had the courage to tell me. The words were like a punch. Bella had arrived at the truth alone, or at least was starting to suspect. Marcus felt the weight of the lie he was carrying. Bella, You don't need to say anything. I know you know. Everyone knows but me, right? The stupid girl who still believes in fairy tales. You aren't stupid, you're brave, you're holding on to hope, because it's what keeps you standing. But there comes a moment when hope turns into denial, and I think I reached that moment. Tears were running freely down her face now, years of contained pain finally finding an exit. Marcus moved to hug her, and for the first time Bella accepted the gesture. She cried on his shoulder, deep sobs that seemed to tear her soul apart. She's gone, isn't she? My mum is gone. Marcus couldn't lie anymore. Yes. I'm sorry, Bella. I'm truly sorry. When did she go? 4 months ago. Complications from pneumonia. Her aunt tried to tell you, but you ran away. So I've been alone for 4 months without knowing. I kept waiting, kept believing, and the whole time she was already not here anymore. The pain in her voice was unbearable. Marcus continued holding her, letting her collapse, letting her finally process the loss she had been denying for so long. Why didn't anyone tell me? Why didn't you tell me? Because I was afraid. Afraid of losing you, of you running away again, of destroying the trust we were building. I was a coward, Bella, and I apologize. The girl pulled away, wiping her face with the back of her hand. Everyone lies, everyone hides things. Why did I believe you would be different? I wanted to tell you 1,000 times, but I always thought it wasn't the right time yet. And then time passed, and it got harder and harder. There was no right time. The truth is always hard, but it needs to be said. You're right, completely right, and I have no excuses. Bella sat on one of the seats, her shoulders slumped under the weight of the revelation. So that's it, I'm completely alone now. No Mom, no anyone. You have me, Marcus said, sitting next to her. For how long? Until when will your guilt last? Until when will you feel obligated to take care of the orphan? It's not an obligation, it's a choice. I choose to be here. I choose to help you. I choose to be part of your life. People change their minds, change their choices. Some do, but not me. I learned something from you, Bella. I learned that there are things more important than money or status. There are real human connections. There is meaning in making a difference in someone's life. You saved me in more ways than you can imagine, and now I want to give back, not out of obligation, but because I care. Bella looked at him, her eyes red and swollen from crying. Are you going to adopt me? Is that what you're saying? The question caught Marcus by surprise. He hadn't thought about it formally, but now that she had verbalized it, it seemed to make perfect sense. If you let me, yes. I want to give you a real home, not this bus, not this precarious life. I want you to have opportunities, education, security. I want you to be part of my family. Your family hates me. Your wife thinks I'm a problem. Your children don't even know I exist. Then let's change that. I'm going to do things right this time. I'm going to introduce you to them. I'm going to make them accept you. And if they don't accept, they'll have to deal with it, because you're going to be part of my life anyway. Are you willing to lose everything for me? I'm not losing anything. I'm gaining something worth much more. I'm gaining a chance to be a real father, to make a real difference, to have a relationship based on something real, not on obligations or appearances. Bella was silent for a long time, processing everything. Her mother's death, the lie she had lived, and now this unexpected proposal. It was too much to process at once. I need to think, she said finally, about all of this. I need time. You have all the time in the world. I'm not going anywhere. Even knowing I'm going to bring you problems? Especially knowing that some battles are worth fighting. Marcus left that meeting with a heavy heart, but also relieved. The truth had finally come out. Bella now knew about her mother, and although it hurt, it was a necessary step so she could process the grief and move on. In the following days, Marcus began to take steps. He consulted lawyers about the adoption process. He discovered it would be complex, considering his age, his complicated marital status, and the fact that he already had adult children. But he was determined. If he had learned anything in his life as a businessman, it was that obstacles existed to be overcome. He called a family meeting. Caroline, Leo, and Patricia gathered in the mansion's living room, all with expressions ranging from curiosity to irritation. You're wondering about my regular trips on Saturdays, about the girl I've been helping, so I'll be direct. I intend to adopt her. The silence that followed was sepulchral. Then Leo exploded. Have you lost your mind completely? Adopt? Dad, you're over 50. So what? Age doesn't stop anyone from being a father. You're already a father. Patricia and I exist, remember? Exactly, I'm already a father, and I failed miserably with you two. This is my chance to do it. Differently. So you're admitting you were a horrible father? Patricia asked, finally looking up from her phone. I'm admitting I could have been better, much better. I was so focused on building an empire that I forgot to build a family. Caroline finally spoke, her voice tired. And you think adopting a traumatized child is going to fix that? Marcus, she needs professionals, therapy, structure, not a man having an existential crisis. She has therapy, she has structure. What she doesn't have is a family. And I want to be that family for her. And us? Leo asked. Where do we fit in all this? You are adults. You have your own lives. Bella is a child who was left an orphan. She needs someone. So that's it. You're going to replace your children with a girl you met a few months ago. I'm not replacing anyone. I'm just trying to do the right thing for the first time in a long time. The argument continued for hours. Caroline threatened divorce. Leo talked about disowning his father. Patricia just shook her head and said he was crazy. But Marcus didn't back down. For the first time in his life, he was fighting for something that really mattered. When he was finally alone that night, exhausted from the family battle, Marcus received a text from Bella. It was simple, just a few words, but they meant everything. I accept. I want to be your daughter. Thank you for not giving up on me. Marcus felt tears roll down his face. They weren't tears of sadness, but of something he hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Hope that maybe it wasn't too late to start over. Hope that maybe he could make a difference. Hope that an 11-year-old girl and a 52-year-old businessman could build together something neither ever had, a real family. The adoption process was more complicated than Marcus imagined. Lawyers explained it would be a long road, with visits from social workers, psychological evaluations, and a series of bureaucratic requirements that would test his patience. But he was determined. He had made a promise to Bella, and he would keep it. Meanwhile, he proposed that Bella move into the mansion even before the adoption was finalized. One of the guest rooms was transformed for her. Marcus hired decorators, but it was Bella who chose everything. The soft colors. On the wall, the shelf for her growing collection of books, the desk near the window where she could write her stories. It wasn't ostentation, it was care. It was the first time the girl had something truly hers. On moving day, Bella looked at the abandoned bus one last time. That had been her home for almost 8 months, her refuge in the storm. Now she was leaving behind not just a place, but a phase of her life. "Will you miss it?" Marcus asked, carrying the box with her belongings. "I don't know, it was here. Learn to survive, but I think it's time to learn to live for real." The wisdom of that answer moved him. At just 11 years old, Bella had a clarity that many adults never achieved. The arrival at the mansion was tense. Caroline had gone out on purpose, making her disapproval clear without needing to say a word. Leo was on a business trip, or at least that's what he claimed. Only Patricia was home, and she looked at Bella with a mixture of curiosity and disdain. "So you're the girl who stole my dad?" she said bluntly. Bella faced her without fear. "I didn't steal anyone. People aren't property." Patricia blinked, surprised by the firm answer. "You're right. Welcome to the dysfunctional Taylor house. I'm sure you'll have fun." And she left, leaving a trail of expensive perfume and sarcasm. Marcus showed Bella the room. The girl entered slowly, her eyes wide. The space was bigger than the entire bus where she lived. It had a double bed with soft sheets, a huge wardrobe, the desk she had chosen, empty shelves waiting to be filled. "It's a lot," she murmured. "It's too big." "It might seem strange at first, but you'll get used to it." Bella sat on the bed, testing the softness. "Remember the cardboard mattress on the bus?" "I remember. Sometimes I missed my old bed, the one we had when my mum was alive. It wasn't anything special, just a thin mattress in a small room, but it was ours, you know?" "I know. And this room will be yours too, however you want to make it." "Can I put pictures of her? Of my mum?" Marcus felt a tightness in his chest. "Of course you can. This is your space. You can fill it with memories." The first days were of adaptation. Bella woke up early, forgetting for a moment where she was, expecting to see the rusted walls of the bus. Then reality returned. She was in the mansion, in a comfortable room, with guaranteed food and safety. It seemed like a dream. School continued to be her refuge. There she was just another student. No one needed to know the complications of her life. Mrs. Anderson continued encouraging her writing, and Bella joined the literature club. She made friends, girls who liked reading and writing as much as she did. For the first time she had real friends, but at home the tension was palpable. Caroline maintained an icy distance, greeting Bella when necessary, but never trying to build any kind of relationship. Leo returned from his trip and simply ignored the girl's presence, as if she were invisible. Only Patricia, surprisingly, showed some interest. It was on a Thursday afternoon that Patricia knocked on Bella's bedroom door. The girl was doing homework, sitting at the desk. "Can I come in?" "Sure." Patricia sat on the bed, observing the room. "It's different. Cozier than when it was just a guest room. I tried to make it look like a home. You succeeded." There was a pause. "Look, I know I wasn't very nice when you arrived. Sorry about that." "It's okay, I understand it's weird. It's more than weird. I don't know, complicated. My dad was always distant, you know, always focused on work, on money, and suddenly he becomes this super involved, super present guy. But not with us, with you." Bella didn't know what to say. "I didn't ask for this." "I know. And maybe that's what bothers me. You didn't ask, but you got something I tried to get. My whole life, his attention, his affection, his presence." "Are you jealous?" Patricia laughed humorlessly. "Yes, very. But I also understand. You needed it. We were just spoiled. There's a difference. You're still his children. That doesn't change." "Doesn't it? Because it seems like everything changed. He's different, lighter, happier, as if he finally found what he was looking for. And it hurts to realize that what he was looking for wasn't us." The words were honest and painful. Bella saw perhaps for the first time that Marcus's biological children also suffered. In a different way, but they suffered. "He talks about you guys, you know? Says he messed up, that he should have been more present. I think he's trying to fix things with you too. It's too late. We've grown up. We've already become who we are because of his absence. You can't go back. It's never too late to try. Patricia looked at her with curiosity. How can you be so wise at 11? I'm not wise. I just learned that every day is a new chance. If I stay stuck in the past, I lose the present. The conversation marked a turning point. Patricia didn't become an instant sister, but she started treating Bella with respect. Sometimes she even asked about school, about her stories. It was a start. But Leo remained hostile. One night, during a formal dinner that Caroline insisted on maintaining despite everything, he finally exploded. "Dad, we need to talk about the will." Marcus put his silverware down. "Now? During dinner?" "It's important. With this situation, things have changed. I need to know how the division of assets stands." "You mean how it stands now that Bella is part of the family?" "Exactly. She has no right to what we built, to what is ours by blood." The silence was heavy. Bella, sitting at the table, felt all attention turned to her. She wanted to disappear. "Bella is my daughter as much as you are," Marcus said, his voice dangerously calm. "She's a stranger you decided to bring home. She has nothing to do with our family. She has everything to do with it. She showed me what really matters. She showed me how to be a decent human being, something you, unfortunately, haven't managed to do." Leo stood up, furious. "So that's it? Are you disowning us?" "I'm not disowning anyone, but Bella will have the same rights as you. And if you don't accept that, it's your problem." "It is our problem. She's destroying this family." It was Bella who spoke, her voice firm despite the tremor. "This family was already destroyed before I arrived. I'm just being blamed for showing the cracks that already existed." Leo looked at her with anger. "You have no right to talk about our family." "But she's right," Patricia said, surprising everyone. "We pretended everything was fine, but everything has been wrong for years. Dad working non-stop, Mom living her parallel life, me traveling. To escape, you obsessed with money. We weren't a family. We were a group of strangers sharing a last name." Caroline finally spoke, her voice icy. "Enough. Everyone to your rooms. Now." But no one moved. The elephant in the room had finally been acknowledged. Marcus looked around the table, seeing his fractured family, and felt a deep sadness. But he also felt something else. Determination. "You are right to be angry. I failed as a father, as a husband. I spent years building wealth and destroying relationships. But I found Bella at a moment when I was completely lost, and she showed me a way back. Not to what I was, but to what I can be. And yes, that includes being her father. The way I should have been a father to you." "Too late for us," Leo said, leaving the table. Dinner ended in an awkward silence. Bella went up to her room feeling the weight of being the involuntary cause of so much conflict. She sat at her desk and began to write, as she always did, when her emotions became too intense. Marcus knocked on her door an hour later. He found her writing, tears running down her face. "Bella, I shouldn't be here. I'm destroying everything." "You aren't destroying anything. You're just illuminating what was already broken. But they hate me, and they're right to hate me. They don't hate you. They hate the mirror you represent. They hate seeing that I can be a present father because that means I chose not to be with them. You chose wrong. I did, and now I'm trying to do better, with you, and I hope eventually with them too." Bella wiped her tears. "Sometimes I think it would be easier to go back to the bus." "Easier? Yes. Better? No. You deserve a family, Bella. You deserve love, stability, opportunities. And I'm going to give you that, even if the road is hard." The following months were full of ups and downs. The adoption process moved slowly. Social workers visited regularly, assessing if that environment was suitable for Bella. The family tension was evident, but so was the genuine bond between Marcus and the girl. Bella continued to excel at school. Mrs. Anderson entered her into a state essay contest. The theme was family. Bella wrote about finding belonging in the most unlikely places, about how family isn't just blood, but choice and commitment. Her essay was selected among the top 10 in the state. When he found out, Marcus organized a small celebration. He invited Caroline, Leo, and Patricia. To his surprise, Patricia attended. Caroline sent polite excuses. Leo simply ignored it. The celebration was simple, just Marcus, Patricia, and Bella, with a cake and juice. But it meant a lot. "I'm proud of you," Patricia said, and she seemed genuine. "You write really well." "Thank you, that means a lot. And it means a lot to me that you haven't given up on being part of this messy family," Bella smiled. "Messy families are the best, perfect ones are boring." Patricia laughed, a rare and genuine sound. "You're right, and maybe we can make a mess together." It was a small moment, but important. A bridge being built between two people who had more in common than they imagined, both looking for their place, both trying to understand what it meant to belong. That night, when everyone had gone to sleep, Marcus entered Bella's room to say goodnight. He found her looking out the window, watching the stars. "What are you thinking?" "About my mum. I wonder if she would be proud of me." Marcus approached. "I am absolutely sure she is, wherever she is. Do you believe in life after death?" "I don't know, but I want to believe that love doesn't die, that the people we love stay with us in some way. I like that idea, that she's still here somehow. She always will be, in your memories, in your strength, in every word you write." Bella turned to him. "Thank you for everything, for not giving up, even when everything got hard. I will never give up on you, Bella. That is a promise." "I know it is, and this time I believe it." They stood there for a moment, father and daughter, not by blood, but by choice. And in that choice, there was something stronger than any biological tie. There was conscious commitment, mutual respect, and a love that was being built brick by brick, day after day. Outside, the city of Tucson slept under the starry sky. Inside the mansion, two lost souls had found a safe harbor in each other. And while many battles still needed to be fought, many wounds still needed to be healed, they knew that together they were stronger than any storm that might come. A year had passed since Marcus found Bella in that abandoned bus. 365 days of transformations, conflicts, tears, and small victories. The adoption had finally been approved after months of waiting, interviews, evaluations, and endless bureaucracy. Bella was now officially Isabella Taylor, Marcus's legal daughter. The last name she carried didn't erase her history, didn't replace the memories of Miss Nancy, but added a new chapter full of possibilities. It was a Saturday morning. The same day of the week everything had started. Marcus woke up early before the sun had fully risen, as he always did now. He had discovered that the first hours of the day, when the house was still silent and the world seemed to be on pause, were the most precious. He used them to reflect, plan, and simply exist without the pressures the rest of the day would bring. He made coffee, 2 cups, one with plenty of sugar the way Bella liked it. He put everything on a tray along with some fruit and cookies and went up to her room. He knocked lightly on the door, a ritual they had established. Always knock, always respect each other's space. "Come in." She was sitting at her desk, writing in her floral-covered notebook that Patricia had given her as a gift the previous month. The golden light of dawn entered through the window, illuminating her hair tied in a ponytail. She had grown that year, not just physically, but in every possible way. Her face had lost that worrying thinness, her eyes had a shine that didn't exist before, and her posture was that of someone who finally felt safe in the world. "Good morning." Brought. "Breakfast?" Marcus placed the tray on the edge of the bed. "Good morning, what a nice surprise." Bella closed the notebook and turned to him, smiling. "Writing again?" "Always. Mrs. Anderson said real writers write every day, no exceptions, even when they aren't inspired. So I'm trying to be a real writer." "You already are." Marcus approached, handing her the cup of coffee. "What are you writing this time?" "A story about a girl who saved a lost man on an empty road, but in the end discovered he saved her back, in ways she didn't even imagine were possible." "Sounds familiar," Marcus said with a smile at the corner of his mouth. "Because it's our story, but with some literary adjustments, of course. More interesting characters, more dramatic dialogue, that kind of thing." "Of course. Because our real story isn't dramatic enough, he joked, sitting on the edge of the bed. Today is a special day, did you know? It is. Why? Because it's been exactly 1 year since we met. 1 year since that accident on the road. 1 year since you appeared out of nowhere and decided it was worth saving a man you didn't even know. Bella put the cup aside and looked out the window, as if she could see through time to that fateful day. 1 year seems like a lifetime. Seems like that girl on the bus was a different person. In many ways, she was. We are different people now. I definitely am. Better? I hope so. I at least know I'm better. You taught me things I had forgotten or never knew. About compassion, about being present, about what really matters. Funny, because I was going to say the same thing about you, Bella replied, turning her gaze back to him. You showed me there are still good people in the world, that not everyone abandons you, that promises can be kept. They were silent for a few minutes, savoring the coffee and fruit, each lost in their own thoughts. Then Bella took a deep breath, as if preparing for something important. There's something I need to tell you, she said, her voice a little shaky. About my mum. Marcus felt his heart tighten. After all this time, talking about Miss Nancy was still delicate. You can tell me, I'm here. I went to the cemetery yesterday alone. I needed to do it alone, you know? Without anyone watching me, without anyone trying to comfort me, just me and her. I understand. Must have been hard. It was. But it was also liberating in a way. Bella picked up a grape and twirled it between her fingers, watching the light play on its surface. I talked to her, told her everything that happened since she left. About you, about the accident, about how you found me. I told her about school, about my friends, about Mrs. Anderson and the essay contest. I told her about the adoption, about living in this huge house, about how sometimes I still wake up expecting to see the rusted ceiling of the bus. Marcus listened in silence, knowing she needed to vent. And do you know what I realized while I was there, looking at that simple headstone with her name? Bella paused, tears starting to form. That she prepared me for this. All those years waking up at 4 in the morning, working until she couldn't anymore, but always finding time to teach me, to make me study, to tell me education was the only inheritance she could leave me. She was preparing me to survive without her. As if she knew deep down that one day I would be alone. Your mother was a wise and strong woman. She was. And do you know what else I realized? That she didn't leave me alone. Not really. She left inside me everything I needed to continue. The strength, the determination, the will to fight. She gave me tools, and you gave me the opportunity to use them. Tears began to run down Bella's face, but she continued. And I survived. More than that, I'm living. I'm in school. I have friends. I have a family. I have a dad who cares. She would have been so happy. Marcus knelt beside her chair, holding her hands. She would be incredibly proud of you, of the brave and brilliant young woman you've become. I miss her every day, but it's getting easier. The pain is turning into gratitude. Gratitude for having had her as a mother, even if for a short time. That is the true meaning of honoring someone. Not staying stuck in pain, but carrying the love forward. That's what I'm trying to do. They stayed like that for a moment, connected in that shared vulnerability. Then Bella wiped her tears and smiled. Enough sadness. You said today is special. Is there a surprise? Marcus stood up, smiling mysteriously. Maybe. But first, I need you to come down to the living room. There are some people who want to see you. Intrigued, Bella followed Marcus downstairs. In the living room, she found Caroline, Leo, and Patricia waiting. What was unusual was that everyone was smiling, not with that habitual tension. What's happening? Bella asked, confused. It was Patricia who answered. It's a kind of celebration. 1 year since you entered our lives and messed everything up in a good way. Bella didn't know what to say. Leo approached, his features softened in a way she had never seen. Look, I was a complete idiot to you. I said and did things I deeply regret. I was angry, jealous, and I put all that on you when it wasn't your fault. You don't have to. Yes, I do, Leo interrupted, his voice firm but emotional. You deserve a proper apology. A real one, not those empty apologies people give just to ease their conscience. So here it is, complete and sincere. I'm sorry, I'm sorry. For every cruel word I said, for every look of contempt, for every time I questioned your right to be here, for that horrible dinner where I talked about the will as if you were an intruder trying to steal what was ours." Leo paused, discreetly wiping his eyes. His voice was heavy with genuine emotion. "I'm sorry for not seeing until recently that you weren't taking anything from me. In fact, you were giving me something I didn't know I needed. You showed me my father was capable of being present, of truly caring about someone. And instead of inspiring me to build a bridge with him, it filled me with bitterness. Because if he could do that for you, it meant he could always do it for me, but chose not to. And that truth hurt more than I could process." Bella looked at Marcus for a second, seeing the pain on his face, hearing his son's words. Then she turned her attention back to Leo. "I understand," she said softly. "If I were in your place, I'd probably feel the same. It's not easy seeing someone new getting what you always wanted, but it shouldn't be like that, and I realized that. You were just a child who needed help. You didn't ask to be put in the middle of our family problems, and yet you handled everything with a grace and maturity that I, at 32 years old, couldn't manage." The words were so sincere, so full of real regret, that Bella felt a lump in her throat. "Thank you for that, for being honest, for apologizing for real. That means more than you imagine." Caroline was next. She approached with her usual elegance, but there was something different in her eyes. Softness, perhaps. "Isabella, I won't lie and say it was easy accepting you. My marriage to Marcus was already worn out for years, and your arrival just accelerated the inevitable. But watching you this year, seeing your strength, your determination, your kindness, I started to understand why he chose to fight so hard for you." "I didn't want to destroy your marriage," Bella said, her voice small and full of guilt. "I never wanted to cause problems." "You didn't destroy anything that wasn't already in ruins, dear." Caroline sat next to Bella, something she had never done before. "Marcus and I stopped being a couple a long time ago. We became housemates, cohabiting the same space but living completely separate lives. Your arrival just illuminated a reality we preferred to ignore." Caroline paused, carefully choosing her next words. "And you know what? Watching how Marcus changed for you made me reflect on who I became too. I spent so many years focused on appearances, on social status, on maintaining a perfect facade, that I forgot to live for real. You, with your youth and your difficult story, taught me that authenticity is worth more than any position in society." There was an emotional silence, and then Caroline did something completely unexpected. She hugged Bella. It wasn't a formal hug, quick and distant, but a true hug, lingering, full of meaning. "Welcome to the family, for real this time. Not as an obligation, not as someone we tolerate, but as someone who deserves to be here." When she pulled away, Bella had tears in her eyes. Patricia approached and took her hand. "Come with me. There's something I want to show you." She led Bella to a corner of the room where there was a painting covered by a cloth. With a dramatic movement, Patricia revealed what was underneath. It was a beautiful painting done in watercolor, showing an abandoned bus under a starry sky. It was simple, but full of meaning. "I painted this for you, so you never forget where you came from, not with shame, but with pride, because surviving that made you who you are." Bella was speechless. The painting was beautiful, but more than that, it was a validation of her story. It wasn't something to be hidden, but celebrated. "It's perfect," she managed to say finally. "Thank you." Marcus watched everything with a full heart. His family, that family, he had neglected for so many years, was finally coming together. Not in the traditional way, not without scars, but coming together nonetheless. But the surprise wasn't over yet. Leo cleared his throat, clearly nervous. "There's one more thing. After talking a lot with Dad and doing my own reflection, I decided to do something. I created an educational fund. It's for children in vulnerable situations, like the one you were in. It will pay for school, supplies, food, everything necessary. And I want you to be the ambassador of the project. to tell your story to inspire other children. Bella looked at Marcus, who was smiling with pride. Did you know about this? It was his idea. I just supported him. She turned to Leo. Why are you doing this? Because you taught me something important. That money only has value when it's used to make a difference. And also because I admit I need to do something good to make up for being so horrible to you. You weren't that horrible, just hurt. Whatever it is, I want to make up for it. So do you accept? I accept. It would be an honor. The morning continued in an atmosphere of reconciliation and new beginnings. They had breakfast together, something they hadn't done in years. Conversation flowed, sometimes still tense but genuine. They were a family relearning how to be a family. After breakfast, Marcus took Bella for a drive. They went to the road where it all began, to the exact spot where the car had rolled over. The vehicle was no longer there. It had been towed a long time ago, but the marks were still visible in the dirt. Why did we come back here? Bella asked. Because this is the place where my life changed, where I stopped just existing and started living for real. I wanted to thank you, from the bottom of my heart, for saving me that day. I just did what anyone would do. But it wasn't just anyone. It was you. An 11-year-old girl who had every reason to leave me there but chose to help. You showed me what really matters in life, and for that, I will be eternally grateful. Bella smiled. You know, I have to thank you too. Why? You're the one who saved me. Because you gave me something I didn't have anymore. Hope. When my mom left, I thought I had lost everything, but you showed me there was still life ahead, that I could have a family, a home, a future. We saved each other then. I think so. They stood there for a while, observing the arid landscape that had witnessed the beginning of everything. Then Marcus took something out of his pocket. It was a small box. I have a gift for you. It's not much, but I thought you'd like it. Bella opened the box and found a delicate necklace with a pendant shaped like an open book. Inside the book, engraved in tiny letters, it was written, "Your story is still being written." It's beautiful, she whispered, eyes tearing up. Marcus helped put the necklace on her. You have a bright future ahead, Bella, and I'll be by your side on every page of that story. I know, and that makes all the difference. They returned to the city, but before that they made one last stop. The cemetery, where Bella's mother was buried. Marcus had never been there before, and Bella thought it was important for him to go. I want you to meet her, or at least I want to visit with you. They walked among the headstones until they found Ms. Nancy's. It was simple, just her name and dates. Bella placed fresh flowers she had brought. Hi, Mom. I brought someone to meet you. His name is Marcus, and he takes care of me now. I know you'd be happy to know I'm not alone, that I have someone who cares, who supports me, who believes in me. Marcus stood beside her, respectful. Ms. Nancy, I promise I will take care of your daughter. I will give her all the opportunities she deserves. I will love her as if she were mine from the start, and I will make sure she never forgets you, never forgets where she came from, never forgets the strong and wonderful woman who raised her. Bella held his hand, interlacing their fingers. Thank you, she whispered, not addressing Marcus or her mother, but both figures who had shaped who she was and who she would become. They stayed there for a few more minutes, in respectful silence. The gentle wind swayed the trees around the cemetery, and Bella felt something she couldn't name. It wasn't exactly peace, because the pain still existed. But it was something close to it. It was acceptance, perhaps. The understanding that life goes on, even when we think it won't. That love doesn't die. It just transforms. When they left the cemetery, the sun was high in the sky, illuminating Tucson with that characteristic midday light. It was one of those perfect August days, hot, but with a gentle breeze that made everything more pleasant. The city stretched out before them, full of life, movement, and infinite possibilities. You know what I'm thinking? Bella asked as they walked back to the car. What? That stories don't really have endings, just new beginnings disguised as conclusions. Marcus stopped walking and looked at her, impressed. Mrs. Anderson would be proud of that sentence. It's profound and true. She's proud of all my sentences, Bella replied with a mischievous smile. Says I have the soul of a poet. And you really do. They got back in the car, but before getting in, Marcus pointed to an ice cream shop on the corner. How about we celebrate our 1-year anniversary with some ice cream? In the middle of the day in this heat. Exactly. Because of the heat, and because ice cream makes everything better. Bella laughed. That's the wisest philosophy I've ever heard you say. They sat at a small table on the sidewalk, Bella with her strawberry ice cream and Marcus with chocolate. They watched people passing by, each with their own stories, their own dramas and joys. An old lady with shopping bags, a young couple holding hands, children running and laughing, life happening around them in its ordinary beauty. It's weird, isn't it? Bella said, licking her ice cream. How a year ago I was completely alone, thinking my life was over. And now I'm here with you, with a family, with opportunities. Sometimes it feels like a dream. If it is a dream, it's one I don't want to wake up from. Me neither. Bella got serious for a moment. But I get scared sometimes. Scared that something will go wrong. Scared of losing everything again. Marcus reached his hand across the table, covering hers. That is completely normal. You went through deep losses. It's natural to be afraid. But I want you to know one thing. No matter what happens, you will never be alone again. Even if I'm not here, you'll have the education we're giving you, the skills you're developing, the strength you already have. And you'll have people who care about you. No one can take that away. Promise? Promise. And this time you know my promises are worth something. I know, because you proved it. Exactly. They laughed together, walking back to the car. And as they drove through the city streets, Marcus thought about everything that had changed in a year. He had lost total control of his company, allowing Leo to take on more responsibilities. His marriage was coming to an end, but amicably. He had renounced the need to control everything and everyone, but he had gained something infinitely more valuable, a purpose, a reason to wake up every day that went beyond numbers in a bank account. He had gained a daughter who challenged him, inspired him, and made him want to be better. He had gained the chance to make a difference, not just in Bella's life, but through the educational fund Leo had created, in the lives of many other children. And Bella, in turn, had gained a family. Not perfect, not without problems, but real. She had gained opportunities she had only dreamed of having. She had gained security, education, and most importantly, someone who believed in her unconditionally. When they arrived home, the mansion that once seemed so cold and empty now seemed more welcoming. Patricia was in the living room, showing her travel photos on the computer. Leo was in the office, working, but waved when they passed. Caroline was in the garden, tending to her flowers. It wasn't the perfect family from TV commercials, but it was real, with all its imperfections and complexities, and maybe that was exactly what made it special. That night, Bella was in her room finishing writing in her diary. She had started writing religiously after her mother's death, a way to process her feelings. Now she read the first entries, full of pain and loneliness, and compared them with the most recent ones, full of hope and gratitude. Marcus knocked on the door to say goodnight, as he did every night. Finishing the day? Almost. Just reflecting. About what? About how everything changed. About how a year ago I was alone in an abandoned bus thinking I would never be happy again. And now I have a family, a school I love, friends, opportunities. It's surreal. Life can change very fast, for better or for worse. In our case, definitely for better. Marcus sat on the edge of the bed. You know, Bella, these were the best months of my life. And I know it sounds strange considering my marriage is ending, my company isn't totally mine anymore, and my life turned upside down, but for the first time in decades, I feel complete. Why? Because I finally understood what matters. It's not how many properties you have or how much money is in your account. It's about the connections you make, the lives you touch, the love you share. You taught me that. We taught each other, maybe. But I had much more to learn. And you still do. Me too. I think we never stop learning. Marcus smiled. When did you get so wise? When I met a stubborn man who refused to abandon me even when everyone said he should. They laughed together, and then Marcus stood up to leave. At the door, he turned around. Good night, daughter. I love you. It was the first time he said those words. Simple, but loaded with meaning. Bella felt tears in her eyes. Good night, Dad. I love you too. When the door closed, Bella went back to her diary. She wrote the last entry of that special day. Today marks 1 year since I found him on that road. 1 year since 2 completely different lives crossed in a way neither of us could have predicted. He was lost. I was lost. He saved me. I saved him. And together, we found something we were both looking for without knowing. A place to belong. A chosen family, built not on obligations or blood, but on conscious choices to be present, to care, to love. My mum always said life has its ways of putting the right people in our path. She was right. Marcus was the right person at the right time. And I hope I was the same for him. Our story is far from over. It's just the beginning. And I can't wait to see what comes next. She closed the diary and looked out the window. The stars shone brightly in the Tucson sky, the same stars that shone over the abandoned bus where she used to sleep. But everything was different now. She was different. And for the first time since losing her mother, Bella felt that everything would be okay. Downstairs, Marcus was in his office, looking at an old photo he had found. It was from years ago, when Leo and Patricia were children. He was in the center in a suit, serious, already focused on work even in a moment that should be about family. Caroline was beside him, smiling, but you could see the distance in her eyes. The children looked small and lost. How many moments had he missed? How many school plays? How many bedtime conversations? How many hugs he never gave? The list was too long to count, but there was a difference between paralyzing regret and transformative regret. The first left you stuck in the past. The second propelled you into the future. And Marcus had chosen the second path. He couldn't go back and be the father Leo and Patricia needed. That time had passed. But he could be the father Bella needed now. And maybe, just maybe, he could still build bridges with his biological children. It would never be what it could have been, but it could be something, and something was better than nothing. He put the photo back in the drawer and picked up another one. This one was recent, taken by Patricia the previous week. It showed him and Bella in the garden, her holding a book, him listening attentively as she read aloud. Both were smiling. Both looked happy. Both looked at peace. This photo he placed in a frame on his desk. A constant reminder of what really mattered. Outside, the city slept slowly. The lights of the houses went out one by one. Traffic dwindled. Noise gave way to silence. Tucson prepared for another night, under the starry desert sky. In the living room, Patricia was organizing her cameras. She had decided to make a documentary about the Nancy Hope Project, following some of the benefited children. For the first time in years, her work with photography had a purpose beyond posting on social media. It had meaning. It had impact. Leo was in his office, reviewing the contracts for the educational fund. He had put a significant portion of his own money into the project. Not just family money, it was the first thing he did that wasn't about profit, but about legacy. And he discovered that this brought a satisfaction no successful business deal ever had. Caroline, in her room, looked at divorce papers the lawyer had sent. She would sign on Monday. 30 years of marriage coming to an end. She should be sad, but strangely, she felt relief and gratitude. Gratitude for finally having the courage to be honest about what her marriage had become, or rather, what it never really was. She thought about Bella, that girl who appeared like a hurricane in their ordered and fake lives. In the beginning, she had resented her presence, but now she realized Bella had been a gift, not the gift she wanted, but the one she needed. A mirror showing uncomfortable truths, a catalyst for necessary changes. Sunday morning dawned clear and hot. Marcus woke up early again, but this time it was Bella who appeared in his room with coffee. Thought it was my turn to give back, she said, handing him the cup. What a nice surprise. But what made you wake up so early? Couldn't sleep. Kept thinking about everything that happened yesterday. The family getting together, the project, the visit to my mom's grave. It was intense. It really was. And I realized something. Bella sat on the edge of his bed, something she did only when she wanted to have important conversations. For a long time, I thought I had lost my family when my mum left. But actually, I only lost a part of it. Because family isn't just who gives birth to us. It's who chooses to stay, who chooses to love, who chooses to be present. Marcus felt tears in his eyes. You are too wise for your age. Or maybe I just lived too fast, had to learn lessons most kids don't learn, until they're adults. Yes, and I'm sorry for that. No child should go through what you went through. But if I hadn't gone through it, I wouldn't be who I am. And I like who I'm becoming. So in a way, even the bad parts were part of the path. They were silent for a moment, just sharing that space, that connection. What do you want to do today? Marcus asked. I want to write. I want to finish that story I started. About us. I think I finally know how it ends. Tell me. It doesn't end. That's what I realized. Our story has no end. It just has chapters. And yesterday we closed an important chapter. Now we're starting a new one. I like that perspective. Me too. And in this new chapter, I want to focus on helping other kids through the project. I want to use my experience, however painful it was, to give hope to those who are where I was. You're going to be amazing at it. I hope so. Bella paused. But I also want to be just a girl sometimes. You know? I want to play, laugh, do silly things because didn't have much of that in my life. And you will, I promise you will. Morning turned into afternoon and afternoon into night. The family had breakfast together, lunch together, and for the first time in years, simply spent time together without unbearable tensions. It wasn't perfect. There were moments of uncomfortable silence, looks that still carried old hurts. But there was also laughter, genuine conversations, and glimpses of something that could become real. At night, after dinner, Marcus went up to Bella's room again. She was writing, as always. Can I see what you're writing? Bella hesitated, then nodded. It's about gratitude, about how even in the worst situations there are things to be grateful for. Marcus read the text. It was simple, direct, but powerful. It spoke about loss and finding, about pain and healing, about how sometimes we need to lose everything to find what really matters. It's beautiful, he said, returning the notebook. You have a real gift, Bella. Thank you. That means a lot coming from you. There's something I want to tell you, something I've been thinking about for weeks. Because she wasn't alone anymore. She had a father who loved her. She had a family that, with all its flaws, was trying. She had a teacher who believed in her talent. She had friends who accepted her as she was. And most importantly, she had herself. The girl who had survived the impossible and emerged stronger. The girl who saved a man on a dusty road and, without knowing, saved herself in the process. The lights of the house went out one by one. The Taylor mansion slept under the starry sky. And inside it, two souls who had been lost finally found their way home. Not to the house of bricks and cement, but to that kind of home that exists only in the hearts of those who choose to love, forgive, and start over. The kind of home that isn't perfect but is real. The kind of home that is built every day with small gestures of affection, words of support, and the constant presence of those who care. And while the city slept, two transformed lives rested, knowing that tomorrow would bring new challenges, new joys, new stories to be lived and written. Because in the end, that's what life is, a collection of moments, of choices, of people who mark our journey. And Marcus and Bella had marked each other's journey in an indelible, eternal, transformative way. They had found each other in a moment of absolute despair, and together had built something beautiful, something worth every tear, every conflict, every moment of doubt. They had built a family. And nothing, absolutely nothing, could be more valuable than that. End of story. Dear listeners, we hope Marcus and Bella's story has deeply touched your hearts. If you were moved by this journey of resilience, love and family, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments which moment marked you the most. Was it Bella's courage in saving Marcus? Was it his transformation upon opening his heart? Or was it the building of this family, as unlikely as it was real? Every day we bring intense stories like this one, revealing the deepest and truest side of the human soul. Stories that make us reflect on our own choices, on what really matters in life, and on how it is never too late to start over. We'll see you in the next episode, where another emotional story will stir your feelings and make you believe that there is always hope, even in the most difficult moments. See you soon.